السلام عليكم everyone. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله وكفى والصلاة والسلام على حبيب المصطفى وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت الحكيم العليم. اللهم انشر علينا رحمتك وأنزل علينا حكمتك يا ذا الجلال والإكرام. It's a great honor and privilege to be back with everyone. They say distance makes the heart grow fonder. So, and proximity breeds contempt. So hopefully we'll find a balance. خير الأمور أوسطها. Right. So the best of all matters is something in between. So we'll try to find the sweet spot, inshallah. We've reached the 16th hikmah, the 16th piece of wisdom from Al-Hikam Al-Ata'iyya. We're following along with Dr. Tariq's book. This is on page number 21. No, we didn't. Yeah. We reached there, but we didn't explain it yet, inshallah. Yeah. Yes, I'm getting old, but not that old yet. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. If not, we'll do it again. Why not? Alhamdulillah. Then I can quiz all of you guys can teach me, right? Don't tell me, don't hurt me. Don't hurt me like that. Okay. Bismillah. So, and this is really long. This is actually, I think it's the longest hikmah in the whole book. But there's some repetition and there's a rhetorical device here. كيف يتصور أن يحجبه شيء وهو الذي أظهر كل شيء؟ كيف يتصور أن يحجبه شيء وهو الذي ظهر بكل شيء؟ كيف يتصور أن يحجبه شيء وهو الذي ظهر في كل شيء؟ كيف يتصور أن يحجبه شيء وهو الذي ظهر لكل شيء؟ كيف يتصور أن يحجبه شيء وهو الظاهر قبل وجود كل شيء؟ كيف يتصور أن يحجبه شيء وهو أظهر من كل شيء؟ كيف يتصور أن يحجبه شيء وهو الواحد الذي ليس معه شيء؟ كيف يتصور أن يحجبه شيء وهو أقرب إليك من كل شيء؟ وكيف يتصور أن يحجبه شيء ولواله ما كان وجود كل شيء؟ يا عجبا، كيف يظهر الوجود في العدم أم كيف يثبت الحادث مع من له وصف القدم. It's really beautifully articulated, and it's best if it's read all together. And that's why I recited the whole Arabic and we'll read the whole English all together. How can anything veil him when he is the one who caused all things to be manifest? How can anything veil him when he is the one that is manifest by everything? How can anything veil him when he is the one who is apparent in everything? How can anything veil him when he is the one who is manifest to everything? How can anything veil him when he is the one who existed before everything? How can anything veil him when he is the one who is more manifest than everything? How can anything veil him when he is the one without anything? How can anything veil him when he is the one who is closer to you than anything? How can anything veil him when he is the one without who there would be nothing? Imagine how he creates out of nothing and how he creates something new while being described as eternal. Now, this is intimately connected with the last hikmah that we mentioned. It's a beautifully synthesized hikmah. It relates to the previous one. So just as a reminder, since it's been a couple of weeks, it says, مِمَّا يَدُلُّكَ عَلَى وُجُودِ قَهْرِهِ سُبْحَانَهُ أَنْ حَجَبَكَ عَنْهُ بِمَا لَيْسَ بِمَوْجُودٍ مَعَهُ. That which shows you his dominance is that he veiled you from him by other than him. So one of the divine expressions of Allah's qahr, of Allah's prominence and power and majesty over us is the fact that he has utilized, he has placed creation, which serves as a veil between himself and us. And then immediately following that, then the question is posed, how could anything which is created serve as a veil between you and your creator? So it seems like there's a tension here. There seems to be a contradiction. And in fact, it relates to the prior hikmah. Because the reality is that creation does prevent people from seeing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So he's veiling himself with objects which actually don't have any true existence. That is a manifestation of Allah's qahr. And then now he's asking these questions, وَكَيْفَ يُتَصَوَّرُ? How is it possible? How is it, how can anything veil? Yutasawwar, if you were to translate it, how could it be imagined? How would it be possible? How could it be even conceived that something would pose as a veil between Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and his creation by means of creation? And then it's followed by this beautiful statement at the end. After this long series of rhetorical questions, then finally we arrive at the conclusion, Ya ajaba, right? Something ajib, something very extraordinary. That how could something يظهر الوجود في العدم, amazing how he creates out of nothing and how he creates something new while being described as eternal. Now, people of experiential knowledge, because we're talking about the science of spirituality. And this is not a science, a branch of science that delves into the theoretical. It actually focuses more on what is observed, what is experiential. This is the knowledge of ath-Thawq, right? So this is something which is tasted, something which is experienced. And one of the contradictions or one of the confusing aspects about spirituality is that the door to that which is batini, that which is internal, is through that which is outward. So you gain access to the inward through the outward, right? So the Sharia is something which grounds us, something which anchors us, something which gives us direction, but the Sharia itself is not the objective. The Sharia, I'm going to quiz you guys now since you did this hikmah already. The word Sharia, what does it mean? Right? Because it's creeping everywhere, so we should know what it is. That's right. MashaAllah. You guys are taking notes. So the Sharia is the path which leads to water. Not the water itself, but it is the path that you take for the water. So the Sharia is the path. The Sharia is not the objective, right? So if you think that you're on a journey, the Sharia is the path that you utilize on that journey, but it's not the destination. You need it, otherwise you'll be lost. But don't think that that's what you really need. And the best way to encapsulate this is by considering Imam Malik's statement that man tazakka, and some people, some narrations say man tasawwafa, which we're familiar for the word for tasawwuf, for Sufism. But I think the more authentic narration is man tazakka, whoever focuses on spirituality, walam yatafaqqa, but he did not learn and acquire knowledge of the Sharia, faqad tazandaq. That person is susceptible to becoming a deviant, right? Because they won't know right from wrong. They're like, oh, I see people are worshiping this way. It looks nice. It's enjoyable. So I'm going to do the same thing. And they might make mistakes along the way. وَمَنْ تَفَقَّهَ, and whoever acquires knowledge of the Sharia, of the law, وَلَمْ يَتَزَكَّى, so they know all the rules, all the halal and haram, that they're not telling everybody all the things they're doing wrong. وَلَمْ يَتَزَكَّى, but the person did not focus inward. فَقَدْ تَفَسَّقَ, that person is a sinner. Right? Because what ends up happening is all you do is, document and collect facts and figures, but then you're not living it. So then it's not your lived reality. It's something which is merely theoretical. Then that person is a sinner. وَمَنْ جَمَعَ بَيْنَ الْإِثْنَيْنِ, so whoever joins between the Sharia, right, which is the path, the outward manifestations of faith, and joins the inner manifestations of faith, right? When the inner dimensions are fully engaged, the way that the outwards are, right? So the salah, for example, you might be moving with your hands, but there are certain harakat, there are certain motions of the heart. So there are a'mal of the body, but there are also a'mal of the heart, right? So the heart has to move. the way that the body moves. And if they move in tandem, then the inward and the outward are in lockstep, right? And the person is moving towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in a path which is not going to allow them to deviate and is not also going to bring them away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala or to gain his displeasure. So this is why you need that anchor. Sidi Ahmad Zarruqi mentions that this is mahal of mazal al-aqdam. He said that this kind of aspect of spirituality is one of the places in which people slip up. And they make mistakes. Why is that? Because we're talking about the most serious of matters. We're talking about the description of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, his divine attributes. We're talking about his reality as al-haq. We're talking about the science of haqa'iq, of realities. So it's very difficult if you theorize but you don't experience it, then you might make mistakes. So this is a caution for all of us, which is that to truly experience these spiritual states, you have to live it. You can't just say, well, I think it's this way or it's that way. And that takes us to the beginning, the first statement, which is how can anything veil him when he is the one who causes all things to be manifest? So as we go through the list, he is the one who manifests everything. Vahara, he's the one that makes it manifest. He is manifest through everything. He is manifest in everything. He is manifest to everything. So we have four statements. So he is manifest to everything. He is al-Wahiru. Alaysa dunaka shay. As we mentioned, actually we mentioned that in the Umrah. That was one of the du'as that we recited when we were doing the tawaf. That, oh Allah, you are al-Wahir. You are apparent. So there is nothing besides you. Right? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, one of the interesting things about the Arabic language is that we have something called the nominal sentence. Right? So in English, this is from the ajaib of the Arabic language, is that we have a construction of a nominal sentence. Why is that different from English? In English, we have a to be verb. Right? So Brother Atiq is cheerful. So now he's cheerful right now, but maybe you might piss him off and then he might, no, that's not impossible. He's always going to be cheerful, inshallah. May Allah always keep you smiling. But it has a temporal aspect, right? It's your particular state based on a point in time. But when we say, قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ أَحَدٌ, right? That say Allah is ahad. So Allah ahad, there's no verb, because a verb is an action. But in the Arabic language, there's a construction that describes the nature of the thing or the nature of the person. So when we say Allahu Samad, Allah is eternal. So in English, we translate Allah is eternal, but that doesn't do justice. This is the difficulty. This is why things are lost in translation. So when we said Allah is al-Zahir, that means that he was apparent before the existence of light. His being apparent, Zahir, is not contingent or conditional upon anything. Nothing else needs to point to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in order for him to be al-Zahir. Because these are from his asma that relate to his that relate to his very being, of Allah being Azza wa Jal, that he is the Lord of the universe. So before the existence of anything else, he was already al-Zahir. But normally when we talk in conversation, like, oh, that's apparent, we mean that that's apparent in comparison to everything else. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is more manifest than anything because his existence is not contingent upon anything. It doesn't relate to anything. It is something which is sole and independent. He is al-Wahid, right? That takes us to the next one. That how can anything veil him when he is the one who existed before everything? How can anything veil him when he is the one, he is al-Wahid, who is more manifest than anything? So alongside Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there's nothing. So he is nearer than anything else. Were it not for him, then would there be anything else in existence that would be manifest? No. It's only because of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala Existence, we'll explain it more in just a moment. Ajaba, what a marvel, how amazing, how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allows His existence to be manifested in front of the backdrop and the background of all of the created things which are non-existent. Not in the sense that they don't exist, but whose existence is conditional upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when you think about it, in conjunction with the previous hikmah, how is it possible that that creation can now value when those things don't truly exist? The only true and complete existence is that of Allah Azza wa Jal. So everything else is void of a true reality, right? Because it's only Allah's divine decree that allows that thing's existence to be perpetuated, and whose existence can be terminated at any moment and requires no independent action. That thing only continues to exist by virtue of Allah's qada, of Allah's divine will, that that thing should continue to exist. And also it's because Allah is the one who brought that thing into existence, and that thing is now completely and utterly dependent on Allah Azza wa Jalla. That's why Allah is the only Al-Ghani. Huwa Al-Ghani, antum al-fuqara ila Allah. Right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Muhammad that Ya ayyuhan nas, antum al-fuqara ila Allah. You are all faqirs, you are all poor and impoverished before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Doesn't matter how much wealth or accolades you accumulate in this life. Anything in comparison to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala without limit is nothing. And as we mentioned previously, Allah is not in this world and He is not outside of this world. This is one of the very important points in our aqidah and our belief. Allah does not exist in this world, but He is also not outside of this world. He is not connected to this world, meaning that He is not a part of this world, and also Allah is not disconnected. He is not outside or disconnected. He's not a part of this world. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's control and knowledge and power and awareness, His muraqabah, touches everywhere. وَنَحْنُ أَقْرَبُ إِلَيْهِ مِنْ حَبْلِ الْوَرِيدِ. And we are closer to you than your own jugular vein. So it's not necessary for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's existence and your existence to coincide. This is not necessary for Allah Jalla Jalaluhu. But it doesn't make it any less of a reality that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not disconnected from you. He's not connected to you in the sense that He's a part of you. I hope everybody, I didn't lose anyone. This is one of the most difficult topics in the Aqidah. He's not so connected to you that Allah is part of you, but He's not disconnected from you either. Because it's not necessary for your existence and Allah's existence to coincide. Right? And this is a very subtle point, but it's very important. Because then when you read in the verse, like we mentioned previously, that Musa is told, La takhafa, you and your brother Harun, don't be afraid. Innani ma'akuma. Surely I am with you both. Asma'u wa ara. I see everything. Whatever happens to you, you know what as Allah mentions in Surah Ibrahim. Don't even conceive for a moment that Allah is heedless of what's happening to you, what the tyrants are doing to you. Asma'u, I hear everything. Wa ara, and I see everything. وَهُوَ مَعَكُمْ أَيْنَمَا كُنْتُمْ. He is with you wherever you are. So what does that mean? That to have that ma'iyah, to have Allah with you. What does it mean? That can be confusing for a person. But when you understand what we just mentioned, now it makes sense. He's not with you like your buddy is with you. But in a sense, Allah being with you is more real than anything which is physical. Because that which is physical only exists in the physical realm. And if it stops being a physicality, it no longer exists. Khalas. It's gone. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is hayyun la yamut, wa la yafut, wa la yazul. That Allah is the one who is alive and He doesn't die, and He doesn't disappear, and He doesn't dissipate, and He doesn't and He doesn't disintegrate. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't need any space. He is the one who's with you, doesn't need to occupy any time and any space. He's transcendent. He's more real than anything that you can observe or anything that you can see with the eye. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can be witnessed, but He can only be witnessed by the basira, not by the basar. He can be witnessed by the heart. He can't be witnessed by the eye. That doesn't, so people, they think, oh, that's very esoteric. So is that real? It's more real. Because what is it that you're seeing with your eyes? It's an optic nerve sending signals to your brain. It's just neurons that are synapsing and moving, and we're like, that's real. I know that that's there. But in reality, it's just a sensation that's happening in your brain that's telling you that this is the world in the domain of al-hiss, something which is sensory. And so we think that the sensory is what is real. So if we can't touch Allah, so it seems more distant, it seems less real. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is more real because He is with us in every moment and in every second, in every place and in every situation. So as soon as you're bogged down and you're only limited by that which you can touch, feel, and smell, in the sensory world, then you're going to feel distant from Allah. You're gonna create walls and limits that I don't see Allah helping me in this situation. But as soon as you let go of that physicality and the sensory, then you understand that the intellect can only tell you what Allah is not. That is something which Allah bequeaths in the heart of people. And you might be simple people. Sometimes our mothers, I always mention the grandmothers, right? Allah, this is a phrase in the Middle East. They say the Imam of al-Ajaiz. May Allah give us the Iman of al-Ajaiz. They say this is the Iman of the old ladies. May Allah give us their faith. Because they haven't studied the books of Aqidah. But intuitively, if you ask them questions, they're like, of course Allah is like that. What are you talking about? They get the most complicated concepts without having the right words. How many people are unknown in the earth, معروف في السماء, but they're famous in the heavens among the angels? You say, oh, who's that person? Oh, yeah, all the angels, we know that person. This is from the friends of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And how many people are famous in this earth, right? Go to the Billboard top charts, right? Everybody knows them, right? Majhulun fi sama. The angels are like, oh, we don't know who that is. That's a nobody, right? So we have everything kind of backwards. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, let's take a closer look, inshallah. So Zahara, it means to become manifest, apparent. Zuhur, it means emerge. Then the author mentions Allah, that Allah is the one that makes something evident. So then there's Allah Himself being apparent, then there's Allah making things apparent, then there's the fact that Allah is that Allah is more manifest, that is the superlative form, than anything else. In the book of Imam Abu Hamid al-Ghazali, and the book of 99 names, which I think you guys covered a few years ago, in the commentary about Al-Zahir, he says this. He says, Allah, may He be praised and exalted, is hidden when He is sought. Allah is hidden when He is sought by sensory perception, using the resources of imagination. So if you try sensory, or if you try imagination, it's going to fail. You're not going to find Allah that way. Yet Allah is right when He is manifest when sought by way of inference using the resources of reason. So by If you try to observe Allah in a sensory sense, in the way, as I mentioned before, in a conceiving about Allah in terms of physicality, you're bound to fail. But if you understand Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not by trying to observe Him Himself, but by observing the signpost to Allah within the creation, I'll simplify it a little bit. The thing which indicate to the existence of the Creator, and by using reason and engaging the aql, then you'll find that every single thing points to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And people would say, well, this is obscure. How can Allah be so evident? This is lost on many people. And this is something that we mentioned last month, that Allah is hidden in His manifestations because of the intensity by which He is manifest. We mentioned that you might be in a bright room, there's a lot of light, and you say, what's in the room? The room is empty. The room isn't empty. The room is full of light. But you think that the light is the thing that you need in order to see other things. You're not looking at the light itself. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He's hidden in the sense that His light fills everything. But because we find Allah in every corner that we turn, it's almost too obvious. We almost don't even notice Allah because we drop something, we think gravity is going to be there. We see clouds, we say, oh, that's a rain cloud, it's going to start raining. Because we know the sunnah Allah, the tradition and the patterns that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has set in His creation, and we expect that there will be the continuation of that. So Imam Abu Hamid al-Ghazali, he mentions, actually this is from Ibn Ajiba, he says that if there's a single word by an author on a paper, he said you're going to infer that there's an author. You're going to infer that the person is competent. You're going to infer that the person is able to read and that the person is able to see. So how can you know so much about an author just based on a single word? How do you understand that these attributes exist? Nothing is pointing to the author except for the shape of a single word. But that single word is clear testimony that somebody wrote me. Otherwise, how did the word end up there? The word is there, that means that there is an author. If there's a word, there's an author. And when we observe the natural world and the natural reality, then we quickly come to the realization that there is not even an atom in existence that does not bear witness to the need for the existence of an organizer to arrange a planet and to specify it with the proper qualities that are conducive to it continuing in the way that it was originally arranged. I know that it was complicated. Let me simplify that. When each atom is in perfect harmony and fulfilling its divine purpose, every single thing is running perfectly. It indicates if things are organized, that means there's an organizer. If things are designed, that means there is a designer. If things are created, that means there must be a creator. وَلَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي أَحْسَنِ تَقْوِيمٍ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala composed the human being and formed it in the most beautiful form. فَتَبَارَكَ اللَّهُ أَحْسَنُ الْخَالِقِينَ. Glory be to Allah, the best of all creators. So we really just have to look at the creation, and everywhere you look, when you hear the birds chirping, when you hear the dolphin communicating with the other dolphins, when you see the water come down from the sky, when you see the winds gust up, when you see that everything is pointing to Allah. Allah didn't leave us one word. He left us a whole book. He left us volumes of books. Each and every single word is pointing to the existence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the creation, with all of its wondrous nature, and its vastness, with its complexity, right? Then you have al-hadith and you have al-qidam. So this is getting us towards the end of this, in which he mentions that Allah created out of nothing and how create something new while being described as eternal. So these are the two opposites. We learn things from the opposites. So al-hadith is something that has occurred, something that happens, whereas Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the opposite. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is al-fard as-samad. He is the eternal one, huwa al-awwalu wal-akhiru. He is the first and he is the last. He exists fil qidam. He exists in timelessness. Qidam doesn't mean a long time ago. Qidam means forever. That means that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala transcends time. So creation, can it really serve as a veil for the creator? Can we allow the creation to be a veil for things? Can we allow other people, for ourselves? Can we allow our own selves to veil us from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when every single time you see the creation, so you see the rising and the setting of the sun, of the mountains, of the oceans and the clouds. And in each instance, you think of how many possibilities were out there. Okay, the sun is rising from the east. Why didn't it rise from the west? In space, everything floats because the gravitational pull is so weak. Why couldn't it be like that? Allah, He sakhar al-fulk tajri. We're reaching in Surah Yasin, the tafsir, fil-fulk al-mashhur, huge cargo ships with heavy loads, and they float gently across the ocean. Could it be that just a little bit, the density of the water was, H2O was just a little bit different? The polarity that exists would be a little bit different, and that would prevent things from floating in water. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there's a takhsis that He specified and He balanced everything in the perfect way. Ibn Ashir, he mentions, he said that His existence, there is a dalil qat'i, dalilun qati'u. There's a definitive proof that every single thing which occurs is in need للصانع, to the one that manufactured it and created it in the first place. لو حدثت بنفسها الأكوان, if all of the cosmos and all of creation, that just happened on its own, that just created itself, لاجتمع التساوي والرجحان. So let's explain that. If the creation were to emerge on its own, then at-tasawi, then things that are in balance, things are unequal, and rajhan, and those that are preponderant, one thing which is chosen and selected over the other would have been the same. So let's try to explain. That means that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala designed everything with a specific purpose, that everything functions in a certain way. So you might look at genes and you might say, why do they mutate? And why does this happen? And we might say, oh, this is the process not working. It's broken. Something is wrong. No, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, even in the situations in which it deviates, is also part of the divine plan. Everything has been created in perfect balance, and there must be a reason. Animals look a certain way because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made some animals to be camouflaged and other predators to not be camouflaged. Allah created organs in a certain way to fulfill their divine purpose. Everything is proof of Allah's will, proof of His power, proof of His wisdom, proof of His mercy. All of it is ultimately a testimony of Allah's mercy, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't need any of it. Not the takhsis, not the specific way in which He set everything in balance, and not even in a general way. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't need us in the very first place. We have the hadith Qudsi that kuntu kanzan makhfiya, that I was a treasure hidden. فأحببت أن أعرف, and I longed I love that I should be known. I wanted creation to know him. فَخَلَقْتُ الْخَلْقَ كَيْ أَعْرَفَ. So I created all of the creation so that they would know me. And so the essence of Allah's mercy is love. The very essence, the very beginning, the genesis of our creation is an expression of love from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we would come to know him. That is the fulfillment of our divine purpose as human beings is ma'rifatullah, is knowing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so it's a blessing to be alive. It's a blessing to be brought into existence, just to know Allah. And that he sent prophets and messengers, all of that, to teach us that path. ألا إن سلعة الله غالية ألا إن سلعة الله الجنة. This is a hadith from at-Tirmidhi that the goods of Allah are غالية. They're expensive. The goods of Allah is al-Jannah. That is the most valuable thing in creation. Out of everything in the world, is there greater bliss than to enter the gates of paradise and to meet the beloved Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam? And beyond that, is there greater bliss and satisfaction than to gaze upon the noble countenance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Allahumma rizqna ladhata an-nazar ila wajhi al-kareem. May Allah give us that ability to gaze upon his beautiful countenance. We're talking about physical pleasure, but we're also talking about spiritual pleasure in paradise. And the spiritual pleasure is far greater. We wouldn't trade that glimpse for any of the pleasures in this world. Just pause for a moment that the people in Al-Jannah, they've been given fruits that they want, houses that they want, rivers that they want. They're living in the penthouse. They're diving into the rivers, waterfalls, you name it. Even the food they call for, it comes to them. Even the branches, they're dense and lush and green and beautiful. It's like the most beautiful of any gardens of this world and beyond. And then on Yawm al-Ziyada, then the angels, they say that Allah is going to increase you. People can't imagine what could be greater than that. And the greatest bliss and the greatest happiness that they experience is to be with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to experience that reality. Do you think that reality when we're talking about, do you think we're talking about a physical eye? The same eye which one day is going to go 6 feet or however many feet under the ground and disintegrate, is that the eye that we'll see Allah with? Does anyone seriously believe that? No. This is completely incomprehensible. The way in which we would witness Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is something more real than physicality. It doesn't matter the name, you call it the soul, you call it the heart, you can call it whatever you want. You call it basira, your inner eye. But the point is that there is something that makes the human being alive. That is not just cells that are moving and not just body parts that are functioning. There's something much deeper than that. And that is that knowing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, seeing that everything is pointing to him, everything is glorifying. There's an example from an Imam from Tarim in Yemen, in which he went to Jabal Nu'ayr and he had 5 sons, and one of his sons, he followed him without permission and he reached the place in which the canyon opens up. And it's a beautiful canyon, it's, the mountains of Yemen, and he remembered Allah in that moment. And look at the iman of some people. Some of us, we have the dua in Ariyat, we have long du'as, right? We have like 100 du'as to say, and we have all these formulas, and then you have like the people, their iman is on the next level, right? May Allah make us from among them. He entered this canyon and he said, Allah. That's it. He said, Allah. And his son says that the veil was removed and his son witnessed. And he said, for a split second, I saw every single thing in the canyon that was glorifying Allah. From the intensity of witnessing that, the son passed out. because the human being can't really behold that, right? There are people who used to pray. Shaykh Ahmed al-Refai, who I'm named after, he prayed 1,000 rak'at every night. Zain al-Abidin, the grandson of the Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, I'm sorry, the great grandson of the Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he did the same. He prayed 1,000 rak'at a night. We have no concept is how is that even possible? Given Abu Bakr and Umar radiallahu anhuma, when they were with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, holding the pebbles, they heard the pebbles glorifying Allah in his hand. How come Abu Bakr and Umar heard the pebbles doing tasbih and the other Sahaba? Are they not Sahaba? Khairul Qurun is the best of generation. But why only Abu Bakr and Umar heard the pebbles doing tasbih and the other Sahaba didn't hear it? Were the pebbles only speaking to them and nobody else? No. The pebbles are only doing tasbih, but it was Abu Bakr and Umar who were able to hear and the others were not able to hear. So similarly, some people, they look into the creation and they're able to see that everything which is being manifest, and others are blocked from seeing that. So through everything, creation reveals, points to him. So there are athar, there are traces behind. The famous poet Labid, who I mentioned the Prophet ﷺ had praised before, he said, فَعَجَبًا كَيْفَ يَعْصَى الْإِلَهُ أَمْ كَيْفَ يَجْحَدُ الْجَاحِدُ. So he's asking this question. This is pre-Islamic, by the way. But some of his poetry talks about the deen of Hanifiya, about monotheism. He said, Ya ajaban, how is it? Oh, it's wondrous, it's amazing how somebody can disobey God. How can the person, يَجْحَدُهُ الْجَاحِدُ, how can the person be an atheist and deny the existence of God in the first place? وَفِي كُلِّ شَيْءٍ لَهُ آيَةٌ. And in every single thing there is an ayah, there is a signpost, تَدُلُّ عَلَى أَنَّهُ وَاحِدٌ. And each and every single sign, each and every ayah is showing that Allah is ahadu, that He is one. He is manifest in everything, to everything, with everything. All of these are mawahir. These are the outward manifestations. So when you look and you see someone die, so somebody sees the grief of a loved one passing away, and our community has been afflicted by that again and again in the last few weeks. But one person sees that physical reality, another one sees Allah's decree happening in real time. Allah is Al-Mumeet. Allah is the one who causes death. Somebody sees a baby born, and some people see the joy and the beauty of a child. Others, they see that Allah is realizing and showing, revealing Himself to us that He is Al-Muhi, that He is the one that gives life. Somebody receives a promotion and they celebrate it as an occasion, but others, they see Allah is showing me that He is Al-Mu'izz. So Allah has given me this honor, but I know that He is Al-Mu'izz. I also know that He is Al-Mudhil, that He is also the one that can lower and debase a person. So the reality is Allah is making Himself known, and the only difference is the human being. And the reality is everything and everyone already knows Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He has manifest before the existence of anything. He is the light through which other things become manifest. What is hidden becomes apparent. فَيَا عَجَبًا. So it is a marvel how the existence, al-wujud, has been manifested in non-existence, in al-adam, and how that which is contingent, al-hadith, has been established alongside of Him who has the attribute of eternal, wasf al-qidami, who has the attribute of timelessness. How is it possible that Allah is eternal and creation is contingent? Allah said, kun fayakun, be and it is. How do they both come to coexist? There's a man that was with Imam al-Junayd al-Baghdadi, and he said, Alhamdulillah. So he didn't say Rabbil Alameen, right? Normally we say Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. We say it at least 17 times a day. I guarantee you we don't think that much about it, but we should. He said, Alhamdulillah. So then Junayd said to him, Kammilha ya akhi. He said, complete it, my brother. So then the man said, وَأَيْ قَدْرٍ لِلْعَالَمِينَ حَتَّى تُخَرَ مِنْهَا. He said, how can I mention Rabb al-Alameen? What is al-Alameen in comparison to Allah? What significance does all of the universe have next to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Is everybody following? He's saying, Alhamdulillah. He's saying, after Allah, I don't want to mention anything else. What is the universe? The universe is nothing. I don't even want to mention it. Right? فقال الجنيد قلها يا أخي. Just say it, oh my brother. فإن الحادث, because the thing which is contingent, إذا قُرِنَ بِالْقَدِيمِ, once it is juxtaposed and compared with that which is eternal, that which is timeless, تناوش الحادث, then that which is eternal disappears in insignificance. وَبَقِيَ الْقَدِيمِ, and the one who is eternal will remain forever. So Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen is saying, well, if you say Rabbil Alameen, it pales in comparison and it becomes nothing, and then what remains is Allah Jalla Jalaluhu. If there are any related questions, we'll take it inshallah also on the Zoom. If there's any related questions, we'll take them. Bismillah. Anything? You guys are quiet today. Alhamdulillah. What is the deeper meaning of Jalla Jalaluhu? You know, I love this expression of Jalla Jalaluhu because there's a bit of repetition, right? Because you're describing his attribute with a verb. So Jalla, it means exalted, right? Or majestic. That would be a better way to say it. So his Jalala, his majesty, be exalted. And so it's an expression, it comes in the form of a wish, but in reality, it is a descriptor. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, la nuhsi thana'an alayh. We cannot extol praises of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, huwa kama ath-Thani ala nafsi. He is exactly as he is described himself. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is exalted and majestic. And we love this because it's a way of describing Allah's jalala, his power, but we're describing it in a way that is full of jamal, jalal and jamal. We're describing it in a way that shows Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's beauty. And as we've been mentioning in the tafsir class on Sunday, how there are attributes of Allah that show jalal and the attributes of Allah that show jamal. And in this case, the two are joined together. Can we see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala physically? This is the thing. Why would we want to see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala physically? Because how can something which is limitless be limited? A physicality has a beginning and an end.
But we want.
A physicality is contained within something. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, لا تدركه الأبصار وهو يدرك الأبصار. No eyes can see him and conceive of him, but he captures all of the eyes, right? وهو اللطيف الخبير, and he is the one who's so subtle. He is the one who's informed and aware of everything.
People in heaven, they can Jannatul Firdaus, they can see him.
They can and they will inshallah. But what that means, my saying is that our way of thinking is limited. So we're like, well, it must be a physical sight and a physical body.
Like body, like hands, like we don't think like that.
But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can allow us to witness something in a way which is even more real than that. Something to consider. Something that touches even more, because when you look at something, so Sisters Amida is over there, there's distance. I'm looking at you, but there's still some distance. But maybe the way in which you witness Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's not contingent on the light and the angle and shadows and distance. Maybe the witnessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is something that you witness with togetherness with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I don't know. I'm just guessing. But why not?
Musa alayhi salam
I'd like to think.
Has Musa alayhi salam seen Allah?
No one has seen Allah. Even the Prophet ﷺ has not seen him. And that is because he cannot in the form of a body. Of course, he'll be the first one to see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He said that Musa, he said that Arini anzur ilayk, show me so I can see you. He said, Lam tarani. He said, you will never be able to see me because the human body is incapable of seeing Allah. ولكن انظر إلى الجبل, but rather look at the mountain. فإن استقر مكانه. So if that mountain stays in its place, فسوف تراني, then you'll be able to see me. فلما تجلى, and that's the same word, تجلى. So when Allah, there is a tajalli in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala showed himself كما يليق بجلاله, according to what is suitable for us to understand from his majesty. للجبل جعله دكا, then the mountain turned to dust. وخر موسى صاعقا, and Musa fell down صاعقا, unconscious. And this is in the Arabic grammar. صاعقا is, let's see, let's test all the Arabs here. What's the grammatical form here? وخر موسى صاعقا. It's two possibilities, two right answers.
It's a maf'ul.
Mhm.
Hal.
Yes, that's right. Oh, mashallah. Those are both. We got two answers. Mashallah. Now we know who to ask. So it could be that this is his condition. So one possibility is he fell down and he was already unconscious. Look how intense that is. The other possibility is he fell down because he's unconscious. So there's no repetition in the Quran. وَخَرَّ مُوسَى صَاعِقًا. Yeah, alhamdulillah. So inshallah, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us from those who see him in the akhirah, and make our happiest day in our life be the day in which we meet him. Mhm. 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 Those who want to see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the answer would be in the revelation of Surah Al-Rahman. Mhm. Yes. Mhm.
Everything that is there in the creation of
Alright. Okay. Yes, I understand. Okay, I think this is also a reference to كل من عليها فان, that everything is ephemeral, everything will pass. ويبقى وجه ربك, only one thing is باقية. ويبقى وجه ربك, it's only the countenance of your Lord, ذي الجلال والإكرام, against Jalala, the possessor of all majesty and all honor. This is also in Surah Al-Qiyamah. وَوُجُوهُ يَوْمَئِذٍ نَاظِرَةٌ. They will have illuminated faces. So what is causing their faces to be illuminated? إِلَىٰ رَبِّهَا نَاظِرَةٌ. Why? Because they are gazing and looking, gazing at what? Gazing at Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's a beautiful thought. Yes, for that. Yes, yes.
What exactly does that mean?
So this connects, the question is about the use of the word veil. So the veil is anything which clouds your ability to observe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to gain ma'rifah, to gain knowledge and perception and understanding of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the idea is that all of creation is veiling you from it, but it really shouldn't. That's the tension, which is that the creation is veiling you from Allah, but it shouldn't veil you because its existence is contingent, and Allah is wasf al-qadam. Allah is timeless. So how can something which is contingent and doesn't truly exist prevent you from seeing the one who is al-zahir and who is azhar min kulli shay, who is more apparent than anything and is the only one who is eternal? Don't allow the creation to do that, whether it's yourself, whether it's other people, whether it's worldly things, whether it's that which is tangible or intangible. Don't allow it to do that. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the only true existence. So we have to rewire our brain to get out of the sensory and to understand that the true reality is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He is al-haq. And everything is less real than that. And then when we gain that reference point, then everything else fits in within that rubric, within that framework. So inshallah we'll
But we are seeing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala every time because of the two points.
Mhm,
Parallel, his sign,
mhm.
and Basira, the inner side.
Yes.
These are the two things. And if everybody can see Allah Ta'ala every time.
Alhamdulillah. So that's exactly right. So when we say seeing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with the sight, with the heart, with the soul, whatever language that you use, and I mentioned there's something intuitive. I said people have Imam. People say, oh, the Sahaba, they didn't study the science, they didn't talk about it the way that you guys are talking about. That's true. They didn't need to, because they had that intuitive experiential knowledge. They had experienced that knowing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala without having that guide. They had the guide, which is the best of all creation, the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Yes.
So seeing doesn't mean only the physical seeing, it means the sensation, the
Yes.
inspiration, the feeling of the heart.
We say idrak, we say perception. So you can perceive realities. So don't think that it's only the senses that allow you to perceive realities. The intellect is an important tool also to perceive realities, right? So this is not only like touchy-feely kind of stuff. This is also about engaging the mind.
Right, to think about it in terms of like energy. Like energy can either be created or destroyed.
Yeah.
So I guess looking at the consequences of energy,
Mhm.
I don't know if that's like in really also applicable to gravity, like we can't see gravity, but we see the consequence of it type thing.
Yes, I mean, there are some people, especially outside of Islam, right, who use that rubric of seeing the world in terms of energy. The thing is, then you're living in a this is a 2D world. If you see everything as energy, this is good energy, bad energy, powerful, weak, strong. But Allah's reality, it's not even 3D, it's 4D, it's 5D, it's 100D. It's the levels of dimensions are so deep. So for us as Muslims to reduce things to just measuring strength and energy, I think we'll lose the complexity of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's divine purpose and his design. And so we won't truly understand Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Those people don't believe in a divine being. So they're like, oh, this is good energy, so it works for them. But for the believer, we believe in the existence of the one who, before we even entered into the existence, knew exactly where we're going to be born, where we're going to die, how we would earn our wealth, every single minute detail. And he is aware of every single thing. وَإِن مِّن شَيْءٍ, not that, that even a leaf that doth fall, إِلَّا يَعْلَمُهَا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows about that. He knows عَدَدَ قَطْرِ الْأَمْطَارِ, the number of the drops in all of the rain in the universe. He knows the weight of al-bihar. He knows the weight of all of the oceans and all of the seas. Is there anyone that knows that? By the time they measure it, the number has changed, but Allah knows that. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is intimately aware of all of that. So for us to think, it's not like it's wrong, it's not wrong. But for us to limit Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to a single scale, reduces, it's like dayaqt. You have made something which is so vast, we can't make it limited in that way. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is much beyond that and above all of that. Yeah. So I think we've gone over the time. So kindly forgive me. Next time, the next hikmah is very short. So then we'll spend less time in the fikr, and we'll spend more time in the dhikr, inshallah, to keep things in balance. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala increase us in knowledge, that which is beneficial to us. May Allah illuminate our hearts. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide us, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to gain the knowledge and understanding of Him. May Allah make light in our bodies. May Allah make light in front of us and behind us, above us and beneath us. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us light as we walk throughout our paths, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala illuminate us on the straight path. Barakallahu feekum. Allahumma ja'al jam'ana hadha جمعا مرحوما واجعل تفرقنا من بعده تفرقا معصوما ولا تجعل بيننا ولا منا شقيا ولا محروما برحمتك يا ارحم الراحمين. جزاكم الله خيرا.